Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish, where you find out what the really successful author, coaches, and speakers do to build audiences in a very connected way. Before we get started with today's guest, I want to invite you to go over and take our Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. You can find it at www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com and find out where your skill set is measuring up to where you want to be really successful. Are you making it? Or are you not? Today's guest is Tiffany Peterson, and she is a seasoned speaker and international coach guiding individuals and audiences in creating thriving lives and business results. Before founding her own company, Lighthouse Principles, Tiffany worked with many popular brands. Franklin Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the world-famous Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, and Jack Canfield, creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Tiffany has been responsible for achieving sales budgets that range upwards of $40 million in annual revenue. She loves sharing her sales secrets and strategies with others to help them create sustainable income, living their business dreams. You can find out more about her and the Creating Your Ideal Life and Results at www.tiffanyspeaks.com. I had to read that off another computer, so no eye contact there. Sorry about that. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, love. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. You never know where you're going to meet people. I just met Tiffany at a very small, intimate luncheon and found out that she does an amazing job with coaching, sales, and self-care, which is so important. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so fun to cross paths with you.
Well, great. So we're going to talk today about relationship building because as a sales expert, you know how to build those relationships.
I love it. I love this topic because I think when it comes to sales, which as we all know is our number one business skill, but it's also the area that we can sometimes have a lot of fear attached to or uncertainty or disconnect or so forth, is coming back to the heartbeat of being successful in sales really is about being successful in relationship and successful, as you and I have talked about, connecting and conversation and the way that we show up in relationships. I really think there's two things to be great in sales. And the first is that we show up intentionally to nourish our relationships, what I often call nourish your network, and talking through that in detail today with you. And secondly is learning to ask better questions, is that the aspect of what we're asking, not what we're telling, has more influence to someone, right? As I just love to say this, Juliet, is the reality is that humans all have the same core essential needs. You have them, I have them, everyone listening to this, everyone that's listening to this that you know, have the same core essential human needs. And those needs are to feel respected, to feel valued, to feel seen. Do I matter to you? Am I significant? Also, crucially, is the skill or the need to feel heard, right? Like I love to say in any relationship, feeling heard is like oxygen to the relationship, both personally and professionally, right? It's just that doesn't always mean we'll agree, but that we're conscious to create space where people do feel heard. And I think when we remember that whether we're in technology, we're in real estate, we're a fellow coach, or you're in health or wellness, whatever your industry is all of us are in the people business, and all of us that we love life, work with, want to work with, clients, you name it, you're dealing with humans, and those humans have same core essential needs. And so I just love this topic because it's coming back to something we know is a true principle, but it's like being renewed in it or being recommitted to. That's right. I want to be more intentional in my relationships. That's right. I want to show up more present. That's right. I want to help others feel like they matter to me. I remember years ago reading this quote by Mary Kay Ash, the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, who was a big time trailblazer in a whole new industry of direct sales, specifically for women and women that wanted to work from home, is that she would say this, is imagine everyone that you meet is walking around with a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important, as well as the essence of, do I matter to you? Am I valued by you? So I think as we come back home to the core essential of why you're in business, why your business will be succeeding, or sometimes why it's struggling, is we've forgotten the essential heartbeat of our business, is whether with our employees, the people we're married to or partnered with, or the people we want to attract into clientele, is so much of our success in life has everything to do with how we're connecting in our relationships.
That is so true. And you and I were just talking about digital and how people really got into digital for a while and now it feels impersonal. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think one of the things we've seen is this could go into like, we could be here for 3 hours and I know we don't have that time, but is you think about, again, humans essentially have a need for connection, right? I have it, you have it. It's like the lunch, the group that we've met through, gathering to connect. And it's just the power and the nurture of doing that. And so as a society, as we've gone so digital and so much technology, the irony is that what we're going to see more of is this uprising of what some authors and thought leadership is talking about is the loneliness epidemic
Mm-hmm.
that's on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And across the board in the last 10 years, suicide rates are up significant. Some research that I've looked at says 25%. I had the opportunity to give a TEDx talk a couple of weeks ago and talking about what I'm calling the comparison crisis, where we're often in comparison and disconnection. But here's the thing, and not to have that be this heaviness, but it is true. We're seeing this more and more people are struggling with loneliness because we're more connected digitally, right? Like technology, which I love, like we're connected through technology right now. But humans will never outgrow the need to feel like, do I belong? Do I matter? Am I heard? Does this company even care about me, right? When you're wanting clientele, their core essential need is to say, do I matter to you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you care about me? And that comes from the personal touch. Or like you were saying before we hit record, the power of conversation is what leads to conversion. And so I love to teach in my full sales training that connection equals clients equals cash. So I love that for the alliterations, right? But it's in essence, your sales revenue is directly attached to your ability to create. You and your sales staff are we creating a culture of community, of connection, where we're actually in dialogue, that we're meeting that essential need? Is that digital marketing still has a massive place in our world today, at least right now at the time of this recording. Social media, websites, online traffic, it's still a massive force. So it's not to shun it, but the reality is that, my goodness, if we're going to have sustainability, is going to come from what's your reputation? Do you deliver? Do people feel valued in your presence, online or in person? I mean, these are just basic human skills, right? But that's why we know it's easy to go, oh, that's right. Am I writing handwritten notes? Am I taking clients to lunch? Am I spending time with my employees and we're connecting and getting to know each other? Are we nourishing the relationship? Because what we water grows and what we ignore dies. And that's true for your health. That's true for your relationships, personally or professionally, is we all know how to get in relationship, but sustainability, to stay in relationship or to have clients be repeat customers or to become a raving fan, right? I love Kevin Kelly's work, that 1,000 raving fans article about, are you creating raving fans? Because then they do so much of your marketing for you. They're out saying, gosh, Juliet and her team, wow, look what they deliver, or look what Tiff does for our group, or she over-delivered at our conference, whatever. It's just that, are you creating rich, nourished relationship? So that to me is something I'm super passionate about and committed to. Perfect at it myself? No, I'm not perfect at nourishing relationships all the time to the level that I would like, but I'm sure committed. And so that commitment brings me back over and over again to doing the little things, which are everything in relationship.
All of that is so precious, because when I look out in the coaching world today, I see a lot of self-promotion versus service. And I think you just hit that. The people who are truly practicing what you're talking about are servers, and the others are self-promoters, which, that the big gurus, where you never get to touch them.
Yeah.
You're part of their program, but you never actually see them, or you get 15 minutes a quarter with them. So, this is really important stuff, being available for your tribe as well. How do you make suggestions to you work with to really stay connected?
Well, number one is I invite them to schedule it, right? Someone that I've learned from in this field, Brendan Burchard, I remember once in one of his seminars or books said, success is scheduled,
Mhm.
And so I think it's important to schedule it. So like for myself, every other Friday in my calendar, I have an automatic reminder that pops up that says RN, baby. And the RN stands for relationship nourishment. And so sometimes that Friday I might be traveling, I might be speaking, I might be playing, but I'm just regularly reminded where it's become second nature for me.
Uh-huh.
It's just, we often think those thoughts, it's just following through. So let me, if it works for you, I'd like to offer a few suggestions.
Absolutely.
I love for all of you to think about who's on your VIP list, right? And VIP list of a couple of different relationships. You have personal, you have existing clientele, which I want you all to star or circle existing clientele, because that is where your biggest opportunity for depth of sales lives, is people who already do business with you. As we know, the classic phrase in sales is that people do business with those they know, like, and trust, is just truly giving that love and energy, watering, right? We're out nourishing that garden of existing clientele. And then your, peers or colleagues is another form of a VIP clientele. And then finally, new business, right? When we look at, you can even put that in a quadrant grid, is sometimes I teach it that way. We have that in a sheet where it's like top left is personal relationship, top right is existing clientele, bottom left is your peers or colleagues, and then bottom right is your new relationship. But thinking about your VIPs, which would be those three those three quadrants that are already in your life, that love you, support you. This can be friendships and, a significant other, to, of course, existing clientele, or maybe peers and colleagues, people that might be in your company or you might have worked with before, or that you're in similar positions and you're connected through an association. But it's just being aware of your VIP clientele, the people that do the most business with you or bring you the most support, is prioritizing that you touch and connect with them, ideally at least quarterly, right? Like a legit connection where they get to hear from you, that personal touch, the power of the personal touch, as I love to call that. And so that might be a lunch, that might be going and getting a massage or pedicure together, that might be sending them flowers or a gift box, that might be just simply a handwritten note, right? Like, I'm a big fan, I'm a little old school. I love stationery and cards, and I keep them here in my office. I often travel with them, is I just love the handwritten note, right? Where everything is so digital, it's kind of like in thought processes, what everyone's doing is do the opposite. And so it's, how do you show up in someone's mailbox, right? That they can touch, they can feel. It's just that you're connecting with them. And of course, conversation, where you just dialogue and ask questions. How are you? How's life? How are your kids? How's business? How's whatever the thing is that you do and deliver for them? Just checking into them. Is it minimum? I think your VIPs that know that might be the equation that's sometimes referred to in sales, the 20% who produce 80% of your revenue, is give those 20% high touch. You might even gather them for a retreat or take them on an excursion, or host a client appreciation barbecue in the summer, or a holiday party and gifts and things like that. Is, of course, you look at profit margin, but I do have a philosophy that for every dollar a client invests in you, a percentage goes back into the client.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let's say someone does a $50,000 contract with you quarterly, right? Or annually, or whatever your business model might be. And looking at, of course, your hard costs and then your profit margin, but a percentage of that. So like for me as a coach who I regularly do retreats or live events, a portion of the event ticket goes back into a gift. That might be a custom water bottle that's really high quality, like stainless steel type thing, or it might be a book, or a series of essential oils or bath bombs, or based on what retreat we're doing. But a portion of my income or profit margin always goes back into the student. And I think that's really good business. I also think if someone's referring business to you, oh my goodness, it's just like if you go to a restaurant and someone opens the door for you, a complete stranger, most of us, of course, would say to that stranger, thank you, right? Is the power of appreciation is so important. And so to be the kind of person that's regularly cultivating, again, not perfect, but committed to fostering the thank you, and to say it verbally, to send it in a text, thank you so much for showing up for me, or thank you so much for this. If someone though refers business that signs with you, send them a gift card to their favorite restaurant, book a massage for them and send them to the day spa, right? Is do something that it's like you're expressing that appreciation, that can be seen, felt, heard, or experienced. And so thinking about, again, your 20% of VIPs, we want to touch them regularly because they're filling up your funnel for you. Like so much of my business is referral based, right? And so I know this principle where I don't even have the sexiest demo reel for sure. It's not even out there like as a speaker, but I have lots of speaking opportunities because it's the intention of, yes, working on the speaking craft, but it's also just as important as working on the relationship business is nourishing great relationship. And so thinking about for each of you that are listening to this is thinking about what are great ways people have nourished you or that you've nourished others. How can you schedule it so it happens regularly? Or maybe your assistant or something, right? Like after you have a client sign with you, is there a process? Maybe it's automated even. I've had a great experience with a company called Infusionsoft years ago. I highlight that is that as I was looking as a small business owner to up level my CRM software, and I purchased from them. And here's why they really stood out to me is 3 days later, after they had a great sales process experience, they already had my credit card. They'd already charged it. They already had the money. But 3 days later, a free thank you gift showed up in my inbox. Now I know that's likely automated on their side, but it still was a deposit, right? And you look at relationships like, are we depositing in them? Similar as I use the example, are we watering that? It's that, are we depositing? Same thing we could say for our own bodies and health is that you have to be regularly putting fuel in the tank, right? For it to thrive and for it to grow. And a relationship's the same way, is I will never outgrow the need to feel important to you, and neither will you. And so we all can relate to this. Some of us have been married and divorced, or friendships or so forth, or companies we started with. I mean, what's the number one reason someone leaves a company today?
Probably because they're not happy. They don't feel important anymore to the
Right.
company.
Number one reason is
purposes.
Exactly, is their relationship with their boss, their relationship with others, is that they're not feeling like, do I belong? Am I important? Am I growing? It's not the only reason. Sometimes people truly love their boss and they just get a better opportunity, or they've outgrown it, or they are drawn to something new. But it's the thing we know, but we sometimes, it's like we want to like glaze over it because we got all this more important stuff to do to get done than doing or investing in a relationship. But there is nothing more important than the relationship.
All of that is so true. And, I think one of the things you were talking about, past clients, that is so important because those are people you've already shown a lot of value to. And for us, that's our big referral source, is our past clients. So you definitely need to keep in touch, go back and tell them how much you appreciate all the people they're sending to you. It makes marketing much easier for you as well when you have those referral sources. You're not dropping a huge amount of money on marketing with it. So you're really big into self-care, which I love. Every Friday for me, self-care day. I take one appointment in the morning just to feel useful, and the rest of the day is mine. So
Yes.
share a little bit about like the routine that you teach for self-care, because it's so important for entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs.
Yes, it's so true. I think about it. I love to say the phrase invest in the vessel, right? Is that you're the vessel, as I've mentioned, the concept fuel in the tank or the garden and so forth, is that everything is energy. And I think that's worth writing down for those of you that are watching or listening. Everything is energy. And years ago, I remember a really successful sales trainer said that to me, is that the person who comes to the sales interaction with the most energy wins, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean you've got to be a certain personality type, but I'm talking about specifically, are you actively and consistently, not perfectly, but regularly investing in that vessel, where a combination of, if you're moving your body, exercise, it's good sleep, meditation. Are you doing things off what I call your joy list, right? Things that fill up your tank, which might be like your Friday, where you're like, hey, I get to go on a hike, or I get a manicure, I go play 9 holes of golf, or I get, a massage, or I go with lunch with a good friend or something like that. Is just looking at that conversation for yourself, is thinking about the things that fill your cup and that you're regularly committed. On my website at tiffanyspeaks.com, there's a tab at the top that says free resources, and there's several free gifts there. and lots of content throughout my site if you want to take a visit there. But specifically, there's a downloadable worksheet process called the Self-Care Guide. So if any of you listening are saying, I feel burned out, I'm not sure about my purpose, I'm tired, I'm stressed a lot, or I'm feeling low self-confidence, a lot of self-doubt, right? We all as humans go through those things. I still experience them even when I'm working on my self-care game. It's just about those things help offset those feelings and help put us back in the good energy, back into feeling positive, feeling productive. And so it's just really looking at from both physical, body, mind, heart, and spirit. Are you filling your own cup, right? It's realizing I'm responsible for my own happiness and well-being. Others can contribute to it, yes, but being committed to taking better care of myself has so much influence to myself. So as I privately coach someone, Juliet, we work on, and I'm hired 99% of the time to help someone grow their sales, right? That's my expertise and what I focus on. But it's fascinating to me is that the first week we establish self-care habits and work on them through the time we work together. And many times before we can even touch someone's sales funnel or their sales scripting or their sales process, they already see an increase of sales. And I'm never surprised by it. In the beginning I was, but now I understand it because what's happening energetically is they're increasing their energy. And that energy is like turning the light on brighter and more people are drawn in. Is all of you are a form of a magnet, and we're either bringing people in or we're in repelling. And a lot of that has to do with, again, how am I showing up energetically? And so looking at for yourself, I invite you to be your own best coach, right? I think everyone's their own best life coach if they'll turn into it. And so tuning in and asking yourself, what am I craving more of right now? What do I need? What is it my body needs more of right now? And for some of you, it might be hydration. For some of you, it might be more prioritizing your sleep. Maybe having a technology bedtime for yourself, like, hey, put yourself, some of us need, a little bit of a curfew on that. Or you're saying, I really need to declutter my bedroom or something like that, or I need to get moving more regularly. But just if we tune in and start asking, what are some things you're craving more of? It might be mentally, and you're craving more time for meditation or time to read or listen to good podcasts like this one, is that you're saying, I want to be more nourished mentally. I want to be fed. And so I just know that, again, everything being energy is how you feel. I remember once an early mentor of mine in my sales career, when I first went to work for Franklin Covey Coaching, he said this statement to me. And truthfully at the time, Julia, I thought it was just kind of psychobabble talk. This is before I'd done much personal growth myself and really being even aware of that. He said this statement in our sales training class, and I was a few days in on the job, where he said, you will perform to your self-esteem.
Oh,
isn't that a gem, right? That's a juicy gem worth writing down. You will perform to your self-esteem. And I thought, what is he talking about? What? But then I watched myself play that out and that can go, we could be on here for a while about that alone, is performing to what's familiar and comfort zones and so forth. But self-esteem, I want you all to think about it, is that your self-worth, I believe, is eternally in place. That you're already, just because you exist, you are a worthy human, a beautiful being of my belief, and I own it's mine, a beautiful creation of the divine, right? Is that you're here and you're worthy. Now, here's the thing though, as humans, we don't always feel worthy. We don't always feel confident. We all as humans at some level deal with sometimes some forms of self-doubt or insecurity. The not enoughness issue shows up in a different way. You might feel really enough at work, but not really enough in your parenting, or vice versa, or in your looks or your body image or in your bank account. It shows up in different ways for different people. But what I want us to know in this conversation is that self-confidence, so self-worth is just there, but our self-confidence, that those feelings and emotions ebb and flow, is a muscle, right? I believe it's a choice. And it's a muscle like anything else that you can strengthen in yourself. And so whether that's through a form of, doing what I teach, a process called the mirror exercise or mirror work, or your morning ritual, or you're moving your body, or you're taking time for your joy list. On my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Tiffany Peterson, there's a 3-part video series. Each one's about 7-8 minutes, pretty short, called Self-Care Equals Success, parts 1, 2, and 3. And there's 3 different habits shared there with you, because a lot of you just related to what I said, which is, yeah, I know if I feel better, I perform better,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of us know that. If I feel more confident, I show up better in how I'm with my sales, and I'm more effective to close sales because the confidence is behind the process. Like my energy's in a good spot. My relationships personally, or parenting, if applicable to those of you that have children, it's like your energy influences how you show up, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we can influence, though, that energy based on certain habits. So that 3-part series, again, you can find on my YouTube channel. I talk about having a morning ritual, which very, I think, influential to our success, is the way we start our day shapes our day, right? And to start your day with yourself. And so whether that's 10 minutes, what I call the sacred 10, the first 10 minutes of your day that you can just plug into meditation, reading or listening to something positive, yoga, moving your body, going on a quick jog, or having, if you choose more time, of course you could, but it's looking at that for yourself, is that you have a morning ritual that you start your day with you. I think you're the most important person to meet with in your daily calendar. I want you to meet first with you before you meet with the world. And the minute you're on your technology, you're on the agenda of someone else.
Right.
The second you touch your phone, those text messages, that Instagram feed, those LinkedIn messages, whatnot, which are all fantastic, but it's, have you met with you first? Or are you on the agenda immediately of someone else? Morning ritual, I think, is a really potent way. A small thing that has a long-term impact is really potent. I talk about and teach the mirror exercise on video 2 and video 3. We talk about having a joy list. I think everyone needs a joy list, okay? And I just want to explain it really briefly, and then we can dialogue some more about it.
Okay.
But a joy
I actually
list.
have one here.
Yay, look at her. See, she gets it. I want her to weigh in on that, because, you know, it's fascinating. The research we've seen a lot show up in the psychology world in the last 10, 15 years especially, is more about the study of happiness, right? So much, for many, many decades, psychology was just studying our illnesses or our neuroses or our struggles, which is very valuable, of course, to know as well. But a lot of the research now, you know, you have books like The Happiness Advantage, right? Which Sean Aker's great work, where the most attended class on Harvard's campus was a class on happiness, is really studying what makes someone happy. And research looks at that people that are happier are more likely to be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that correlation does not work the opposite way, that people that are more successful are more happier. That doesn't necessarily correlate. What does correlate is the happier people tend to be more successful, because, again, the energy is, you know, that energy you love to be around, and people that are positive and so forth. It doesn't mean you have to be positive 24/7, but that you work on it as a habit.
Right.
So I believe everyone needs a joy list. And coming up with, the way I give the assignment is to come up with a list of 30 things, 15 things that cost money and 15 things that don't cost money. And that you have a variety of things that you can start, you know, identifying. And when I first was given this assignment by one of my life coaches many, many moons ago, and he called it a happy list, I had maybe 3 things on there, because that's about all I could think about. I was like, well, I like to shop, I like to travel, and I think I like fresh flowers, you know, kind of thing. And something he told me then, which I now have been living for many, many years, is literally the fresh flowers was on the list. And he said, Tiff, I want you to give yourself flowers regularly.
Oh,
and that was a mindset shift for me, Juliet, like permission, like what? Because I always thought flowers, you had to wait for, you know, someone to gift them to you.
yeah.
And it was like, no, give them to yourself. And so regularly for me, if I'm at Trader Joe's or Costco, I'm picking up, you know, flowers that are throughout my home, and they bring joy. But the point is, when I first started the list, I had a few things on there, but with time, more things have made the list, from, you know, gardening, hiking, watching a sunset, baking chocolate chip cookies, you know, reading, time with friends, time solo, you name it. It's just a variety of things that bring you joy, and that you're regular about putting some of those things in your life. If any of you were my private coaching client, I'd say minimal, you need an hour off your joy list in your life a week. Ideally, you have at least, you know, 15, 20 minutes a day, something where you're just depositing regularly. But I'd love to hear about your joy list. So tell us about your experience.
I had the same experience. I had like 6 things that I put down.
Yeah.
And I really had a hard time finding joy. Like, it was tough. And I'm not actually sure why. I think because I'm so driven. So now I have every morning I write out 10. I have a mantra that I write as well, things that I'm aiming for just to keep them top of mind so that I'm in alignment with those goals that I want to do. But the joy list, that's kind of what Friday's all about, is I go out and I do something that I really enjoy on Friday, and I don't worry about work. So I just disconnect for the day. So
I
it's
love that.
really, really great. And I've actually learned how to disconnect for the weekend too. That's a new thing.
Mm.
So,
And what do you notice as a difference from doing that?
it's funny because at first there was a lot of guilt, like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. And then I got over that. And I really feel like I come to the table rested, relaxed, and ready to go on Monday morning.
Mm.
I'm not stressed out like I used to be.
Mm.
So
I love that.
I love the joy list.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And it's just something you touched on is permission.
Mhm.
And I think especially as women, I think for men too, but I just know in many conversations with women is the guilt, is like, ooh, can I take time away from work? Or for some of them, can I take time away from my children? Does that make me a bad mom, or does that mean I'm not a great leader if I'm taking the time? Not understanding that, again, if we circle back to when you feel better, you show up better. I think, again, whether that's children or your work, when you're coming from a place with more of a full cup. I know myself, when I'm really feeling pretty good, man, I love work, and I'm going the extra mile, and the things that I love to do in friendships, relationships, I'm not as easily tempted to be offended or take things personally or get my feelings hurt, just to be totally transparent in
Yeah.
relationship. Where I can sometimes get myself in trouble is sometimes we're projecting onto someone else, like, hey, are you showing up for me enough? Versus like, ask yourself, am I showing up for myself enough?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just getting really honest with ourselves. Is like, okay, am I taking time for me, and giving yourself permission? And Juliet and I are here to hold that space for all of you right now, that we're giving you permission to say, yes, please take better care of yourself.
Absolutely. And it's funny, you said that about the kind of just that holding the space. I think the joy list actually has put me in a place where I'm not as offended either, because I'm out seeking things I like instead of overanalyzing. Because
Yeah.
it's really, really easy to get in your head when you're not out doing these things. So, could you share? You've been such a great guest, and I've really appreciated you coming on. Could you share those free resources with us again before you go?
Yes, you bet. So my website, my main hub is tiffanyspeaks.com. Pretty easy and simple. And throughout my site, there's different free downloads, but to put them in one place, there's a tab at the top that says free resources. And there's a couple there that you can scroll. And then I have a really robust YouTube channel, which is just my name, Tiffany Peterson. And from sales training to self-care to productivity to overcoming fear, there's a lot of content there that's also free that you can access. And so that's another free resource as well. And then I spend time regularly on Instagram as well as Facebook, sharing good free content as well, that you can find me under my name also.
Okay, great. And your name, it's Peterson, SON, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yep.
Thank you so much. This has been really illuminating.
Thank you so much. Can I wrap with one quote that's just in my heart that I feel like I want to share?
Yes.
So that one quote would be this: a gentleman by the name of Foster Hubbard is quoted as saying that doing isn't difficult, deciding is. And I think about the power of just making decisions as we've had this juicy conversation, and whether you needed to hear about, yes, I really need to recommit to my relationship nourishment, getting out to lunches, writing those cards, or creating a system where we're regularly acknowledging our clientele or employees, whatever that might be. Or maybe for you, it's recommitting to date night with your significant other. But whatever you needed to hear, maybe it was relationship oriented for you today, or the conversation we've just had around self-care, is I just invite you, one of the ways that I know for all of us to actually create change in our life is, I love myself to listen to great podcasts and audibles and read good books. But what changes our life is not the content. What changes our life is the action.
Mhm.
And so I just am inviting us, all of us, myself included, to think about, doing isn't difficult. Doing a morning ritual, isn't difficult. Taking time to nourish relationships isn't difficult. It's just simply making the decision to do it. And so I just felt like my heart, I was like, ooh, I got to share this thought before we wrap today. So thank you for letting me tuck that in.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.